Module 1, Topic B, Lesson 5, Decimals in All Forms. So we're going to start by reviewing some of these forms. And what you can see is that we're going to start by writing in standard form. Standard form is the regular way that we write a number. So we want 3047. So we have 3000 and then 47. It's just the regular way. When we read a number, we write it in the regular way. But next, we're going to go to expanded form. Expanded form is when we stretch it all out. So first we see that the 3 is in the thousands place. So we take our 3 and we multiply it times 1000 because it's in the thousands place. Next we see that there is a 0. We don't need to do anything for that. Then we see our 4, and that 4 is in the tens place. So we take our 4 and we multiply it by 10. And then next we see our 7 is in the ones place, and we can either do 7 times 1 or we can just do plus 7. And that is our expanded form. Next we have to do standard form again, and it says 1000th. Since there's a th, I know it's on the right side of the decimal, so I'm going to go tenths, hundredths, thousandths. And I see that there's only 1 in the thousandths place, so I put a 1 there. Since I have no other information, the rest get filled with zeros, and there's my answer for 1000th. I can also take that same number and write it as a fraction, 1000th. So 1 out of 1000 is 1000th. And try some more. We have 3000ths in expanded form. Well, first I'm going to do standard. So we had our decimal, tenths, hundredths, thousandths, and there's 3 in the thousandths place and nothing in anything else. So now I can look at this and try to figure out how am I going to take this and change it to expanded form. Well, there's a 0 here, so I don't have to do anything, and a 0 here, so I don't have to do anything, and now there's a 3. So I'm going to take my 3 and multiply it times, that's the thousandths place. So I can either do it this way, this is 1000ths, or I can also do 3 times 1 over 1000ths. Both of those would be correct. Next, we're going to do 13 thousandths in both standard and expanded. So we're going to once again do it in standard. So we have our decimal, tenths, hundredths, thousandths. So we have to end this number in the thousandths place. To end it in the thousandths place, there's the thousandths place. What can I fill in as a placeholder? I can use a 0. And then for expanded form, I can start with the 1, and I know that the 1 is in the hundredths place, so that's the hundredths. And I can do the 3 in the thousandths place. This is the thousandths. Last, we have that we're going to write in word form, so this one I'm going to type up. So first we look at what's to the left of the decimal, and to the left of the decimal is 25. So that's right here is 25. Then we have a decimal. So the decimal tells me that I need to use the word and. So now I type the word and. And then after the decimal, I see that I have a whole bunch of numbers. So first I just read this number. And if I read that number, I see that it's 413. So we're going to write 413. And what space does it end? It ends in the thousandths place. So that's how I do that in word form. But the directions also say that I'm going to do it in expanded form. So to do this in expanded form, I make sure that first I have the 2, and it's in the tens place. Then I have my 5, when it's in the ones, I don't have to do any multiplying. Then I have my 4, which is in the tenths place. Then I have my 1, which is in my hundredths place, so I have to make sure I do hundredths. And then I have my 3, which is in my, I'm going to back that up, sorry, parentheses. I have my 3, which is in my thousandths place. So some more examples here. We have question B is 24 thousandths. So I always like to make my decimal and then go tenths, hundredths, thousandths. Since it's 24, we're going to end in the thousandths place out here, and I have to fill in a 0 to start. The next one tells me 1 and. So I'm going to start by saying 1 and is my decimal. I see I'm going to end in the thousandths, so I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, and it's 324 thousandths. So I'm going to go 324 thousandths. The next one, little tricky, 608 thousandths. So it means right away we're to the right of the decimal. That's the thousandths, so I have to put in 608. Next, this one sounds the same, but there is a little difference. It's 600 and. So I write 600 and is my decimal, and then I look at it, it says 8 thousandths, so I have tenths, hundredths, thousandths. There's 8 thousandths, and I fill in my zeros, and that was a decimal. This is a little new for some people, so this just says 45 thousandths. So I can set it up the same way, tenths, hundredths, thousandths. There's 45, and I have to fill in a 0. Next, there's a whole number of 3. Then there's a fraction, so I write my 3, then my decimal, and then my fraction says 946 thousandths. And we have 200 before, so now we have 200 and 904 thousandths. Sometimes we have to put things into words. So for this one, I'm looking that it's all the way to 3 spots over. So I have 5 thousandths. Over here, first I'm going to read the numbers all the way to the left before the decimal, and that is an 11. The decimal tells me and then I read everything to the right, which is 37 thousandths. And the last one, we're going to read all the way to the left first, which is 403. There's a decimal, which then tells me to say and then I read everything all the way to the right, which is 608, and it ends in the thousandths place, so I can't forget the thousandths. Sometimes we're going to turn into expanded form. So when we're going to turn into expanded form, remember we just go step by step. So it's 2 times 1/10, and then it's 4 times 1/100th, and then it's 9 times 1,000. This is done the same way, but it's got whole numbers, so we're going to do 5 times 10 plus our 7 plus 2 times 1/10 and 8 times 1/100th and 1 times 1,000th. Sometimes things are written in expanded form and we have to switch to standard form. So on this one, we're going to look. Our largest place value is our tens, so we're going to make ones and tens in our decimal. And then it goes all the way out to thousandths, tenths, hundredths, thousandths. I know that from here. So now I could fill in the numbers. In the tens place is a 7. In the ones place is a 4. In the tenths place is a 6. Then the hundredths has a 9. And the thousandths has a 2. So we'll try another one. We're going to go all the way out to the hundreds this time. And we still go out to the thousandths. And this one's a little tricky because there's some empty spots. So in the hundreds we have a 5. In the tens we have a 3. In the ones there's nothing up there, so we're going to put a 0. In our tenths, we have an 8. In our hundredths, we have nothing, so it's a 0. And in our thousandths is a 9. And the last one, we're going all the way out to the thousandths. We have 4,000. We have 200. There's no tens. There's a 7 in the ones, so then we have a decimal. There is no tenths, and then we have a 3 and a 4. And that's all the forms of decimals that we need to know, standard, word, and expanded.